Hey.
Hey. So, welcome to Love and Misdemeanors.
Second episode.
I know, episode 2. Time is flying too fast, y'all. So, I'm going to need y'all to go ahead and fix that for us. Thanks. So, tonight we are talking about love and misdemeanors, or what we would like to call dates that end in crime.
Yes, just horrible dates. I know we've both had some.
I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't there for the what's your most horrible date?
My most horrible date, and I've had a couple, but my most horrible first date is actually really funny. I met this guy at work and he was like tall and tan and he was just really hot, okay? So we made contact and when he went to check out, he was like, "Can I have your number?" And I said, "Why, yes, you can." So I gave him a number, he calls me, and we set up a date. Obviously, I don't want him to come to my house to pick me up because I don't know this man. He may be hot, but I don't know him. So I don't want him to have my address. And we
That's
decide to
really
meet.
smart.
It is. I was like, "Hey, let's meet at the Walmart parking lot." Because I was like, they got cameras. If something happens to me, they're going to track him down.
Meet me at Wally World.
Exactly. So we meet at Walmart and I get in his car and we're on our way to Isle of the Palms to just have a couple drinks. As soon as we hit the freeway, he's like, "Do you like speed?" And I'm like,
The drug
"No,
or the
no, like velocity." So so I'm pretty sure that Fast and the Furious movies were like there was one out at that time because my dumbass was like, "Yes, I like speed." Right? So he floors it. And mind you, this should not be impressive because it wasn't a shift or nothing, right? It was just,
he floors
oh,
in an automatic.
yes, like that's
So
not super
talented.
impressive. So talented, yes. But I mean, nonetheless, I was like, ooh, we're going really fast for 2 minutes. And all of the sudden, wee, right? He
Mm.
pulls over and he starts like sweating profusely. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I know he's going fast and he's gonna get a ticket. And I mean, that sucks. But he was like super nervous. So the cop, license and registration. And he goes, "I don't have a license." I'm like, great. So the cop's like, "Just give me your registration, whatever ID you have, and the insurance paperwork." And the cop goes back to the car as they do. And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't have a license?" He's like, "Well, I'm illegal, so I don't have a license." And at this point, Shania Twain's in my head, right? She's like, "That don't impress me much." Because you're a fucking dumbass. If you are illegal and don't have a license, why the fuck are you risking
Do
deportation
you like speed?
to go fast? Like, no. But anyways, the cop comes back and he's actually super cool. He's like, "Do you have a license?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I showed him my license. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna give you these tickets, but I'm gonna let you go. Just switch drivers and you can finish the rest of your date." I'm like, "Okay." So I get in the driver's seat. We drive to the hotel. The mood had been killed, obviously, because he was probably worried about the really expensive tickets he was going to have to pay.
Right.
Yeah. But so we're having a couple drinks, and he says to me, "I have to tell you something." And I'm like, "Okay, go ahead. Tell me." He's like, "I'm a premature ejaculator."
Why would he share that?
Exactly, like, "Why are you telling me this?" But I didn't even think, like, TMI or anything, it was like the Spanish Inquisition just started, and I just started asking him how long, when, how did you know, like, this turned into like he was my 7th grade science project. Like, I wanted to know the approximate, time it takes to
Is
ejaculate
it a
after
3-stroke?
entry.
Is it a 5-stroke?
Yeah, it's like like, in retrospect, I realized that's probably not the right call for me, like, I should have been more empathetic, like, instead of asking him all these questions. Um, yeah, but needless to say, after that, I think we finished our drink, got back in the car, drove back to fucking Walmart, and I drove myself home. And a few days later, he showed up back at my job, telling me that he didn't have the money to pay for all these tickets, which one of them I think was like $600. And he also needed help translating. I was like, I can help you with the translating, but I ain't got if you're asking me for money for the tickets.
That is really ballsy.
I know it's not my fault. He's apparently obsessed with velocity. He likes to do everything fast, drive
Right.
it. But but what
Ooh,
about you? Have you?
I I don't think that I can top your story. So I'm going to preface my story with saying, if you know me at all, then you know that I have a very particular type of person. I'm kind of like one of those people where it's like, if you don't have 2 felonies, you can't handle me. I don't know why I'm like that. I've been like that my entire life. It's a running joke in my family. Anytime I brought someone to meet my parents, my dad will say, "How long have you been out?" It's a game. Um,
So,
so
like,
I
you
mean,
do a
I've been
background
on.
check? You do a
I mean,
background check
I
on
don't.
them?
I don't
But
need to because I don't care. But I mean, so I put myself in a lot of compromising positions. Like I've been left at trap houses. But for me, worst dates are always like crime related. I've never been on a date where police got involved, except for the time I was kicked out of Walmart for answering their um their phones. But so I've never been on like a date that ended in crime, but I have been on a really bad first date. So I like the reason honestly that I like people that have when people go to jail for some reason, they have a lot of time to read. And so this is you're about to find out why I have this felon addiction that I have. So when people go to prison, they have nothing but time. So they read and they study and they learn law. And then the
okay.
conversations with them become very intellectual conversations. And I love intelligence. That's really what my thing is. So I want to say that my worst first date didn't end in crime, but it definitely ended.
It ended.
I I went on a date with a guy and after we had dinner, he was like, "Hey, I need to stop by and check on my grandma. Is that okay with you?" And I was like, "Oh, so sweet. Oh, love, he's going to check on his grandma." I was like, "Of course we can go
Mhm.
check on your grandma." And he was like, "Come inside, meet her." And so I was super excited. I was like, "This guy must really like me if he's bringing me in to meet his grandma already." And
Yeah.
so we get in there, and he's like, she said something about needing some water. So he was like, "Let me go run and get you some water." And she looks at me and she was like, "Baby, tell me something about you that I don't know." And I was like, "Okay." And so as I start to say it, the guy I was going on a date with walks out of the room, like back into the room with us. And I was like, "Well, I'm a writer. I'm published." And no, I said, "I have 2 published books."
Okay.
And she looks at me and she smiles real big. And then this idiot opens his mouth and goes, "That's nothing to brag about. My grandma's got like 50 of them," and points at the bookcase. And I was like, "Oh, you're a writer?" And she goes, "No." And I was like, so, because I just looked at him like, I didn't, what do you say to someone that dumb?
So you
And
thought that published books meant just like any book that has
yeah,
been
just owning
published?
books. And I was bragging that I had 2 of them. I bought 2 books in my life. Um, and
Oh.
so but even she, like, she looked at him and she was like, "No, baby, she means she wrote 2 books."
Oh,
And he
bless his
was
heart.
like, "Oh." And then, like, as I was leaving, she knew. She was like, "Listen, take care of yourself, baby." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am."
She already
Um,
knew that that was the one and only date that you guys were gonna go on.
well, and Listen, it's hard for me to feel bad for unintelligent people, but I legit felt bad because he really thought that he knew what he was talking about. And yeah, I don't know. I can't be associated with people that don't understand what certain words mean. So, yeah, I mean, it didn't end in crime, but it ended in crying because I really had high hopes for this person that loved his grandma.
Yeah, can I have the last hours of my life back? That's probably what you were thinking.
It was just like, "Man, yeah." Well,
Mm,
and it was one of those dates where it was after, like, a really long relationship. So,
okay.
you always have high hopes for those dates because you wanna not deal with the fact that you just broke up with somebody. So, anyways, tonight we're gonna get into some stories, about dates that actually end in crime, and I'm gonna go ahead and start with our first story.
Okay.
So, our first story takes place out in Massachusetts. And this was a while ago. This was 2016. Um, and this guy, I'm going to set the scene. All right. So I am a beautiful woman, and this man, I meet him on a dating app, and he goes, sorry, y'all, my computer just did something really weird. But anyway, I'm just going to continue. I meet this guy on an app and he goes, "Hey, let's go on a date. Everything's on me. However, I don't drive. So will you come pick me up?" Well, that's
Okay.
kind of red flag one, but we're forgiving people and we're dumb females because that's who we are. So, yeah, no, I'm going to go pick him up. Of course, I'll come pick you up. You're cute. You're going to pay for everything. I just got to use my gas. No big deal. So, she picks this guy up. Now, mind you, all names were retracted from this story. So all I know about it is that it happened in Massachusetts. So, and I dug for these names, guys, because I wanted to show y'all pictures because I could not imagine. Anyways, so they go on this date and they go out to dinner, and dinner's great. And then he's like, "Hey, I need to run by somewhere real quick. Do you mind?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Okay, but it's about 45 minutes away." And she was like, "Oh, no issue. We got a car. We got time. We're hanging out." And he's like, "Cool. I'm going to drink this bottle of wine while I sit in your passenger seat." And she's like, "Cool. So we're getting drunk. We're having fun." And she even says at one point that in her mind, she thought that she was just easy mind so that they would have a really good night because he seemed very on edge and not really with the program the entire time. So she
Okay.
was like, him drinking some wine would probably ease the situation, make him a little more comfortable because she couldn't tell at this point if he really liked her or not. And so she's driving and he's giving her directions. And then they pull up outside of this building and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna run in real quick. I'll be right back. Don't worry about nothing." And he goes inside. He's walking slowly into the building. She thinks nothing about it. About 10 minutes later, he comes running out with something in his hand, and she can see that he has a mask and sunglasses in his hand also. He
No, he
jumps in
didn't.
the car. He jumps in the car and yells, "Go, go, go." And so she goes. And he's like, "You gotta go faster." And she's like, "Why?" And he's like, "I just robbed that bank."
There's the fucking way.
And so this girl is scared out of her mind. She can see that he has a gun in his possession. She's not sure what to do. So she just keeps driving. And so she doesn't speed or anything like that. And he's like, "You got to go faster." She's like, "I don't want to draw attention to us. That'll just draw attention. We just got to blend in." Because at this point, she's like, "Dang, I'm already a part of it. I'm a getaway driver in a bank robbery." And so she's just driving. The police eventually end up behind her car. And when
Wait,
they end
would
up
you
behind her,
hold on one I just have one quick question.
yeah.
Would you do that? Because I don't think that I would continue driving.
So
Like,
I just opened up my heart and soul to all of you and let you know that I always have dated very um crime related men. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
but this
mom,
is
if
a
you
first
see this,
date.
I would probably keep driving.
Really, on a first date though, you'd be like, "Oh, this is a turn on," and just keep driving? Like,
Listen, I've been left at trap houses on first dates.
so if you wanna rob a bank, just, hit Amanda up.
It's take me on a date. I like O'Charlie's and Longhorns.
Oh god. Okay, sorry, continue.
That's absolutely horrible, but that's a really good point. Like, so let me say, if I don't know, because you really wouldn't keep driving if you thought you could get away with it. Does it depend on how much money he stole?
It does, but, see, the thing is, if he stole some money, I would just try to confiscate some of it and stuff it somewhere in my body. Well, not somewhere
It's
in my
not
body,
called
but
confiscating. It's still called stealing, even if you're stealing it from the robber.
it's called confiscating. It's like a fee for my, services. So I would confiscate some of the cash. Um, I would probably at some point stop driving, or no, I would continue driving, and then when the police stop us, I would say that I was under duress and not disclose that I had stuffed some money in my bra or something. You know what I mean? That's probably what I would do.
Well, what she did when the police pulled him over is she slowed down for them. He
Yeah.
jumped out of the car and tried to start running.
I hope she
Um,
kept some money. Sorry.
I don't think
Like,
she got to keep any money. I do know that he went away to jail. He got 10 years. And all the charges against her were dropped because she was able to prove that this was her first date and she didn't know him. So, I mean, luckily for her, and that's probably why her name has been sealed and you can't find it anywhere because it wasn't really her fault. I did try to look at people that went to prison around that time for bank robbery in that area of Massachusetts, and there were like 7 of them. So I don't know which one she dated. And I don't know why bank robbery around that time in Massachusetts was such a big thing. 7 people during a 3-month span seems like a lot to me, but maybe I don't know much about the banks in Massachusetts.
I mean, I don't know anything about banks. I mean, other
You know
than they
anything about
exist.
banks?
No, I don't.
It's a place that we put money.
Listen, but this is why I always like before I go on a date, I always Google people. And I know that that sounds weird, but like I Google them because I want to know if there's any charges or anything that I should be aware of prior to going on a date.
That would
Is that
probably be a
weird
good idea for, like, me to I mean, I don't know if it's weird because I feel like we're looking for different things. So, like, I will Google a guy
to see if he
before I
has
go on a
felonies?
date,
And I will Google him to see if he doesn't.
but I don't do it to see if he has felonies. I do it to see what the felonies are for. Like, I do believe it or not, y'all, I do have a limit. And, like, I will not go on a date that like, with somebody that has any kind of SA charges or any kind of, like, really violent charges. I won't do that. Like, I'm not purposely out here dating murderers or anything. But if you got a couple, trafficking charges and stuff, I don't care about that. That's your past, you
I
know?
mean, everybody has a past. I'm honestly not opposed to someone with a criminal background if that's a part of their life that, is done and over with, but, it's also
Right. You
not
don't want
like
to date someone that's currently a criminal.
yeah, no,
So you don't
and
want to get like dropped off in a trap house on your first date, right?
true, with that said, also being a criminal is not like a necessity, like, you don't need to be a criminal in order to go on a date with me.
Oh no,
That not
I have
everybody's like that.
standards.
Yes. You have standards. Okay. Well, the next date, is actually this one, unfortunately, it's a little bit sad. So this is a woman. She's 25 years old. Her name I'm probably gonna butcher, because It's difficult to pronounce. Her name is Mina El Houdini. Not Houdini. Sorry,
Houdini, not
Mi-
Houdini.
Mina El Huari. Okay, she's 25 years old. She's from Cadenet in southeastern France, right? And as most people do, she meets somebody online, right? They start chatting. And this man lives in Morocco. So after chatting for a few weeks, she decides that it's time for them to go on their first date. And she books a flight to Morocco to meet him in person. And you may think, oh, this is crazy, right? Because she's traveling to a whole different country to meet a man. But
Right.
take into account that like flights, I actually Googled flights today, but flights from like in Europe or around Europe are fairly inexpensive. Like I looked for a flight today from Paris to Morocco, and it was like 20 for the end of the month of this month. It was like $24 and 40 something cents, right?
Okay.
So it's not like over here. Like you can't even get an Uber here for that fucking money. But
Right.
in Europe, you can go to a whole different country for $25.
Gotta
So
move to Europe.
I know, right? So it's doable. Doing something like that is doable. So she goes and meets him. She books into her hotel, calls him up, and he comes and picks her up and takes her home. Well, they're in his house. She collapses. She just, she collapses.
When
And
she first gets to the house?
yeah, well, after I don't know if it's when she first gets to the house or at some
Okay.
point when they're in their first date, she collapses and he freaks out. Um, Instead of like calling an ambulance or doing any of the normal stuff that anybody would probably do, he decides, "Oh shit, she's dead. I must bury her."
Didn't check pulse or nothing.
Nope. So he dug a hole in the ground in his backyard, mind you,
Oh,
his backyard,
oh.
puts her in there and just like loosely covered, like just throws that dirt on top of her, right? But it's just like a shallow grave. Well, if and her family has no contact from her. So they end up contacting the Moroccan authorities, and they eventually, because they're being ignored, they end up traveling to Morocco and filing a missing persons report and giving them the information of this man that she went on a date with. And so, after some arguing with the police, they eventually went and questioned him. When they went and questioned him, they found in his home a shovel and muddy pants. That's what it says. I don't know why he didn't wash the pants or why they were so visible to the police, but because this was weeks after, but they found that and proceeded to look in his backyard, and they obviously found some loose dirt and dug and
Was
found the
she
body
still
of this
dead?
woman. Well, this was weeks later. She was definitely dead. But the thing
So
is,
she was
after that,
buried alive.
yeah, after the autopsy, it was determined that she was an undiagnosed diabetic. So she went into a diabetic coma and passed out. And I don't know why this man, why? I don't, he says he
Oh, wow.
panicked. He says he
But
panicked.
now, so I wanna kinda think about this from 2 different angles because okay, so for starters, as a diabetic, I know that diabetic coma is, like, my biggest fear. So, anytime I feel a little shaky or uneasy, I'm constantly checking my sugars, I'm constantly trying to eat something or drink something with some sugar in it to keep my levels up. Um, and it's a hard thing to do, but if she had no idea she was diabetic, I can understand because she probably mistaked, and a lot of people don't know this, but the jitters that you get from your sugar being low,
Mhm.
or sometimes even way too high, feels a lot like butterflies in the pit of your stomach.
Okay.
So she probably thought that she was nervous about her first date and had no
Mhm.
idea that her sugar had either spiked or dropped. Um,
Exactly.
so then she passes out, but I kind of feel for dude because I don't know what I would do in that situation. Like, I would love to be like, I'm a great person and I'll call the police, and be like, "Hey, this person just passed out or they just died here at my house." But I think I would more be the person that, like, called my best friend and said, "Hey, this person just died. Can you help me hide the body?" Because I don't however, I am smart enough to check for a pulse.
Yeah, no, he panicked.
I
He
might
didn't check
only
for
be
a
smart
pulsar
enough to
either.
do that because I'm diabetic. Like, if somebody just randomly passed out and I had no inclination of, like, diabetic comas and things like that, I probably would just freak out and bury them in the backyard.
Well, that's what he decided to do. I mean, I can see how he could freak out. Maybe he thought, the police are gonna come here. This is this French woman. This is her first time here, and she drops dead in my house. They're probably gonna think that I poisoned her or something. I don't know what he was thinking. But I mean, he confessed. The good thing is that he didn't like. Well, I mean, I don't know that he had any other choice because what is he gonna say? No, she buried herself in my backyard. Like, um,
That's what I would say.
um, but no, it's kind of sad. She ended up aspirating, like just suffocating on the dirt. That's how she died. So and she was so young. So that's super sad. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter. It didn't say how long he got as far as sentencing goes. They didn't even release his name,
Involuntary manslaughter, he voluntarily buried her.
but he thought she was dead. So
He don't work for a cemetery. That was
listen,
voluntary manslaughter.
it was involuntary because he thought he was just, I don't know, just burying her dead body. Um, but turns out she was alive all along.
That poor lady.
Hmm.
Listen, I feel like that's gonna be how I end, y'all. So, y'all
Somebody's
just
gonna bury you alive.
yes. 'Cause I'm gonna have it go into a diabetic coma.
Listen, back in the day, they had, they would put like little bells outside of coffins. Yes, and put like a string that
In case
would
the
go.
dead woke up.
Yeah, because people sometimes don't really die. They're just the pulse like goes so low, kind of like a coma, that they are presumed dead. So
For
back
multiple
in
days until they get buried? Or did, like, they used to have funerals the same day?
I don't know. I don't know exactly when they had funerals, but they started doing it because I don't they would I think they pulled up some coffins and there were like scratch marks on the inside from people trying to get out. So when they would bury someone, they would put them underground and then put like a bell outside of the ground. Outside of the ground, obviously, not inside because it wouldn't ring if it was inside the ground.
Right.
But they would put a bell on the outside and a string that went into, and they would have actually somebody at the cemetery stay the night um, to see if they heard
I
any.
wanna be a cemetery groundskeeper. I think I'd be good at that.
Me too. Nobody talks. All your friends are silent.
And when they do talk, I mean
It makes for a good story, right?
well, I was gonna say I would invite him on our podcast. "Hello, ghost. Come
Oh
talk with
god.
me. Let's talk about how you died."
But what's the next story? What's the next date that you looked up?
So, we've been talking a lot about guys that end up as murderers and guys that end up with crime because my first guy wasn't a murderer. So, Imma talk about females.
Oh,
Alright? We
okay.
all have known that one female that just is off her rocker. Like, she acts crazy on dates. She runs around talking trash. She's trying to fight everybody. She's probably the most toxic female you'll ever meet. But for some reason, all the men are drawn to her. That's the case with this situation.
Okay.
So, this woman decides she's going to go on a first date with this guy. They, so the man's name is Leon Shaw. Um, and they never released the woman's name. But so Leon's like, I really like this girl. She's really pretty. I want to go on a date with her. And she goes, listen, if you want to go on a date with me, you got to take me to the bar and get me drunk. And he was like, okay, I'm in. So Leon takes this girl to the bar and she gets trashed. She's stumbling around, she's talking trash to everybody, but the whole time she's being nice to Leon. So he was
Mhm.
like, it was such a good time. And then as we were getting in the car to get ready to leave, she was like, hey, have you ever done anything crazy on a first date? And he was like, when I haven't, I'm always been a very calculated guy. So I was like, no, what do you want to do? And she was like, let's go get tattoos.
Okay.
And he was like, that's a very immediate thing for me. I was a little skeptical, but this girl really wanted me to get a matching tattoo with her. And I'd never been on a date with such a pretty girl. So
Aw.
I was like, let's go. So they get to the tattoo parlor. And now, mind you, she's super drunk. The
Mhm.
tattoo parlor that she takes him to was actually the tattoo artist was one of her friends.
Okay.
Um, and she was like, hey, I want a chest piece. So she don't just decide to get a tattoo. Leon's paying for it. So she was like,
She
I
was
want
fucking committed.
during the time that she's being tattooed in front of Leon, who is sitting in the room with her, she starts to make out with the tattoo artist in front of Leon.
Oh my goodness, poor guy. Wait, was the tattoo artist, did you not say that it was her friend?
It was her friend.
So, did she just con this man into getting business for her friend? I mean,
Maybe.
that's a way to market. Take me out on a date and then you bring him to your business and then you ask him
Right.
to.
Well, and Leon was starting to, really get upset. So he was yelling at her, like, hey, you're on a date with me. You can't be making out with this other person in front of me. And they never specify whether the tattoo artist is a guy or a girl. So that's why I
Okay.
just say that person.
Okay.
Um, but Leon gets angry and he's like, you can't. And now also, mind y'all, Leon is also drunk. So he's
Oh.
getting angry at the point that they become more intimate, whatever that means in their words. Leon
Bow,
punches the
chicka,
girl.
bow, wow.
Leon
Punch.
punches his date dead in the side of her head.
No, he punched her.
He punched her in the side of her head.
That's I
But she
mean,
was currently having sex with her tattoo artist in front of him.
then you fucking walk out, but you don't punch her.
He punched her. She punched him back. They got in a fist fight. They go outside. She takes Leon's keys from him. And in the studio parking lot of the tattoo studio, she runs Leon over with his own truck.
I mean, he started it,
I mean, but he didn't.
but he did. He
No,
punched
I don't
her.
care what you say. Like, yeah, I get it. He punched her in her head, but I'm sorry. If I'm on a date with you and you start having sex with someone, I'm going to do more than punch you in the head.
I'm gonna walk out. I'm not because if it's the first date, you ain't worth it. But and I'm gonna fucking walk out. But if that was happening, okay, say that I get really drunk and then I take this person to a tattoo parlor and me and the tattoo artist end up like having sex in front of which is not something I would ever do, by the way.
I
But
don't believe
just
you.
mm, you should because I am very modest. I don't know that I believe that. Anyways, say
I'm
that I
glad
end
you
up
don't believe that because I don't.
yeah, no, me neither. But say that we end up having sex, which is horrible, and this man punches me in the face. I don't Imma run him over too. Like,
Listen, I don't well, that's not here nor there because I think there's a difference of opinion there. Because if you think you're bold enough to have sex in front of me and think I'm not gonna react, you got the right one. You know, my mama might have raised me to be a lady, but my daddy raised me to fight. So, you're gonna get the best of both worlds with me. But not only did she run him over, but she took his truck. Like it wasn't even reported till the next day when someone found him dead in that driveway.
oh, he died?
Um, yeah.
Oh, shit. I mean, she took it a little too far,
I
to
mean,
be
no,
honest.
you said it. He punched her in the head. He deserved it.
No, but I would nudge him maybe with the truck, just like a little tap, like tap,
No,
tap.
not only did she, like, run him over, but then she crashed his truck about a quarter mile away and was trapped inside of it until medics arrived the following day and pulled her out.
I feel like we're really messed up for laughing about these situations. I swear to you guys, we do have empathy. It's just it seems funny.
It's beyond funny. I mean, think about it. Like, I don't wanna talk trash about anybody, but number 1, I'm not fixing to get a tattoo on a first date. I'm not.
No,
Some
especially
people
a
might
matching
be okay
tattoo.
with that, but the last thing I need you to see, um, during our first date is me in pain. Like, you don't need to know my pain tolerance on date 1. But if I was gonna go get a tattoo, I wouldn't take you around my friends like you're a first date.
Yeah,
So she took this and listen, where was the friend? Like the
probably
one that she made
inside.
out with? Like, hmm.
I don't
Anyways,
know. He was
I don't
chilling.
think that I think I would have been Leon, but I wasn't fixing to get ran over. I'd have punched the person in their head. I would have. You're not fixing to disrespect me dead in my face. Not
No.
however, after I punched them, I would have gotten my truck and left. She would have never had my keys.
No, I honestly I feel like he should have this is the first date. I don't care how pretty she was. If that's what she and it was his car. So it's not like he was there without he had the choice to walk out the
And
tattoo
now, mind
parlor
you,
and
this
leave.
entire story was told to the police from her because Leon's dead.
Yeah. Not, like I said, I'm not saying that the result is warrants what the situation that was. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he should have never been dead, no matter what. Like even if he punched her, she should have never run him over and killed him.
Well, and that's why, like, I don't really know if I believe the punching her thing.
Okay.
I think that was her attempt to make it like a self-defense. I ran him
Fence.
over because he punched me in the head. But because she makes him sound like a very nice person, a very gentle person, all the way up until the point where he supposedly punches her in the head for having sex in front of him. And then she
That's
runs
so
him over
sad.
with his truck.
He should have just fucking left. I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why he didn't just leave. But I don't know. Decisions, choices we make. That's why, Amanda, I would like to introduce to you my new boyfriend. This is my date. His name is
What's your date's
Neil deGrasse.
name?
See?
This
He
is
li
my date tonight.
Aw, he's so cute. What's
His,
this?
his name his name's The Rock.
The Rock that he has plenty of felonies, I'm sure.
He minds his business.
Oh, he does. That's good. That's good. Well, let me tell you this last story. It's actually this one is kind of funny. It's very lighthearted, I think. Um When on a first date, the question always pops up, right? At least internally, of who's paying for the date, right?
Ooh, before you start the story, what's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion, I'm quite traditional. So my opinion on it is that I think the man should pay. However, I it's not like I'm one of those girls that would go to a restaurant and order like 10 plates of oysters and the most expensive item on the menu and like dessert and appetizers. I would never order more than I am willing to pay myself, because even though I think the man should pay, I will never assume that the man is going to pay. So at the end of the night, if the man offers to pay, I will be like, okay. But if he doesn't offer to pay and he wants to go halves, I'm good with that too. I might not call him again, but I'm good with that. Or
That's
say that,
interesting.
for instance, I'm not interested in this person, right? We go out to eat and there's not going to be a second date. If I know for a fact that there's not going to be a second, there's no reason for him to pay for my meal. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Like,
so you would go Dutch if you were not interested in seeing that person again.
true. I would go Dutch if I was not interested. Or if it's like we're going to go to a concert for our first date, I would never assume that the other person's going to pay for my concert ticket because they're typically expensive, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's my point on it. That's how about yours?
So I think this has a lot to do with kind of growing up how I did. Like I've always been taught like there's and hold on. So let me start this with saying I grew up in a two-family household, two-parent household, and
Okay.
not everybody can say that. So a lot of my opinions stem from seeing two people work hard together my entire life. Now,
Mhm.
there are little things that if I go on a date with someone and they don't do, I will automatically not go on a second date. If you don't open my door, you won't get another call from me. And that's not me being spoiled. That's not, there are just little
Maybe a
things.
little
I
spoiled.
see, and I don't think so. But those are the things that I grew up with. If you're not going to open my car door, I can call my dad and he'll drive from wherever he's at to come do it.
We all
You
have
know,
boundaries, I guess.
right? um, but I did grow up, with a dad that always, no matter what, no matter how many people sat at that table, foot that bill. So I grew up around a dad that would always pay for everything, but then would tell us girls, don't ever allow a man to pay for you if you feel like it's gonna make you feel like you owe him something. Like, don't allow him to pay for this meal if you're gonna feel obligated to go home with
Mhm.
him, or if you're gonna feel obligated to go on another date with him. So I guess I kinda feel the same way you do because I don't ever go on a date or go out with someone with the intentions of thinking, I think they're gonna pay for it. I always go with the intentions of thinking like, I'm gonna pay my way for this. But what always gets me is when the man does do that, that reminds me of my dad. So I'm like, okay, he foot the bill. That's how a true gentleman works. However, if I feel like I'm going to owe him, so I will insist that no, I pay for mine. No, because I
Mhm.
don't like those kinds of people. So I always just kind of go in assuming that I'm going to pay for mine. Um, the date always sucks when the guy conveniently forgets his wallet or his card declines, or he's like, "Oh, I'll cash app you half." Nah, dude, I'm like, I can handle the meal. Don't call my phone again.
Yeah, no, well, those guys would actually be way better than the guy I'm about to tell you about. So
All right, yeah, let me hear.
his name is Paul Gonzalez, and he's from California, right? He's 45 years old. And from 2016 to 2019, he was arrested on August 25th of 2019. He would go on Plenty of Fish and Bumble, right? And set up dates with women, first dates with women. And he would take him to like expensive restaurants, not like Taco Bell or Applebee's or no, it was like really expensive restaurants. He would go on a date, they would sit down, they would both order. He would order expensive things in the menu. And then in the middle of dates, he would get a call or pretend he got a call, say, I got to get this. He would leave the table and not just leave the table, but leave the restaurant and leave the woman sitting there waiting for him to come back. Listen, this man from 2016 to 2019, he had 22 victims. He would like continuously do this, right? Um, and his reasoning for this that when he was arrested was that eating good food made him feel better. That was his reasoning behind it.
I
I mean,
feel
eating
that.
good food makes me feel better too.
Eating any food makes me feel better, so
But this man would literally it was so the victims, not a lot of them actually wanted to come to court, um, because they felt humiliated. You know what I mean? Like, you're just sitting there and you have
what would you do? I know, what would you do if you were okay, Imma set the scene.
mhm,
You're at I was trying to think of a restaurant that me and you really liked back when we lived in the same city, um, but I
Carrabba's. I really like Carrabba's.
okay, Carrabba's, okay. I don't know why, but anyways, Carrabba's. Say you're sitting at Carrabba's, you're on a first date with a guy, and he's like, "Hey, hold on, that was my business partner. Imma call him right back. I'll be right back."
Mhm.
And then 20 minutes later, you're done with your food, you're looking around, and he's gone.
What would I do? Okay, well, I would pay for the meal, obviously. I would also be extremely blue words,
You would
words.
be blue? I would be blue.
Words don't wanna come out of my mouth. See? I'm humiliated, it hasn't even happened yet. Um, I would be very humiliated. Um, I would go back home and create a fake profile on whatever site that I met him on. I would do a second date and beat the shit out of him, okay? I would just beat him. Just kidding. I wouldn't beat him, but I would definitely con him into a second date with somebody
That's
who
actually
wa
kinda smart. I don't
Mhm.
know if I'd waste that much time.
I
See, I
probably
think
would.
that I would ask the restaurant if I could pay for my I would say, "Hey, can I pay for my meal?"
Mhm.
And when they were like, "Well, who's gonna pay for him?" I'd be like, "I don't know, he said he'd be right back, so that's on y'all, but I wanna escape this date. Let me pay for my meal and dip out before he gets back."
You know, one of the restaurants actually, one of his victims said that one of the restaurants actually comped his meal, and all she had to pay for was the glass of wine that he had drank. Because he left, he didn't even. The thing is, he wasn't even finishing the whole meal because he had to make it seem like he was gonna be right back. So it's not like he stayed for dessert. He would order steak and baked potato, and like with this woman, he left his baked potato half eaten, went to take a call, and then never came back. And it was actually really hard to find him because he had been couch surfing and stuff like that, so he didn't have a physical address. He was just staying from place to place.
Right.
Um, from Long Beach to San Fernando Valley, he just kept, you know, moving from place to place. He actually got stopped because the cop recognized him. He was in the street selling fake Lakers t-shirts, like
And that's how he was
jerseys.
caught?
That's how he was caught. Yep.
So how did they figure it out? Like, if none of these girls were reporting it and they were all embarrassed, then how did they figure out this was happening?
I believe I read that one of the people at the restaurant contacted the police because I guess the one of the he saw one of the things happening and the police came to the restaurant, and so that's how you know they got the information from the lady that he left at the restaurant.
Okay.
Um, and that's when they started the investigation on him. Found out that it wasn't the first time. He was originally charged with extortion, but the DA said that there was not enough evidence to support those charges. So he ended up pleading guilty to misdemeanors, and he was ordered to stay 100 yards away from 5 different restaurants. Um, pay $240 to two victims. He was actually banned from Plenty of Fish and what's the other one?
Humble.
Bumble, and he had to
That means
serve.
y'all ladies be careful on Zeus.
Oh, let me show you guys the picture because I mean he wasn't bad looking, but so that's
Let me
him.
see that.
That's
Yeah,
Paul
listen,
Gonzalez.
I think he looks like he'd do something shady.
He does. He does look like he would do something
I
shady.
think it's his forehead, man.
His forehead.
I think how
It,
shiny it is. Like, you should be able to see that he's about to walk out.
no, he looks like a douche. He does look like a douche. A little bit. If you guys are
He probably
listening and
walked
not
out on those guys in the background. He was probably there for a business meeting, and right now he's taking a fake call to run away.
if you guys are listening, make sure you come and check out the video so you can see a picture of Mr. Paul Gonzalez just to know to stay away from him. Okay, if this man
Right.
asks you on a date, you say hell no to
And
the
you'll be
no
able to tell
no.
by the shape of his forehead because he has this weird, like, triangle knot in the front of it.
I know, but I mean he's not terribly bad looking. Like
No, no, he's not terribly bad looking if you're into that.
into foreheads.
Yes, because he has a large forehead. Y'all have to come look at this picture.
Oh
Just
my god.
jump on the thing and go all the way to the end of the podcast and look at this guy because he has a really strong jawline and a really weird forehead.
He does, but the strong jawline, that's actually like a
His
very
hairline,
manly.
doesn't that look like fake hair?
It kinda does a little bit. I feel like it maybe should be like half an inch lower, but we're criticizing him. I mean, if he was a we're criticizing him with good reason. He's a fucking asshole. But maybe I don't know. I don't think
I
he
wanna zoom in because those look like individual implants. I think I've had that hair treatment before.
listen, he probably walked out of the doctor's office too. He actually did walk out of it's called snip and dip or something like that, or some yeah, when you go to get a haircut and then you suddenly get a phone call and run like leave the hair salon. He actually done that a couple
Hold
times
on,
as
hold
well.
on, hold on. I thought that you were saying, and this is my own problem, y'all, this is my own fault, but I thought you were saying he walked out of a place called Snip and Dip. And I
That
was
sounds like
like,
a fun place.
"What?" Well, it sounds like you would get your hair cut and I don't know, like your ends highlighted or something. Snip and Dip.
Oh, if we start a
Um,
hair salon, we should call it snip and dip. I think I like it.
I mean, I'm in. I don't wanna do hair though, so can we just own it?
Sure, we'll get
I don't even
somebody
like doing
else.
my own hair. So definitely don't wanna do this douchebag's hair that's gonna walk out on me
Yeah, no,
halfway.
I don't think anyone wants me cutting their hair, to be honest with you. Um, but he also got 120 days in jail. So that's that. But I don't feel like that's enough. I feel like he's
How
gonna
long
keep
is
doing it again.
120 days? Why isn't my brain working?
4 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's
he
not
got
really a long time. I can survive 4 months in jail.
yep, and community service. Ooh, I really like one of the restaurants that he's like stiffed or he left a date at. The name of it is called Buca di Pepe. Buca di Pepe. It sounds so fancy.
What kind
I
of food is that?
it sounds Italian. Sounds like Italian food.
Um, okay.
Well,
Well, with all of this being said, guys, I really think that we all need to be careful who we're going on first dates with because you may end up with this guy.
mhm.
And he's just no, no, don't do that to yourself. So before you go on first dates, find out who you're going on a date with.
Yes.
And
Google
until next
him.
week at 11, I want y'all to have a wonderful weekend. Share this podcast with your friends. Make sure everybody can jump on and hear what we got to say.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
So grab a seat and join the fun. In lieu of murder, we're number one.